Power Source at Upper Room in Preston, Minnesota. This is kind of our introductory episode to our new season of the Power Source. We're going to be kicking off our new season on May 28th, 2026, with Stephen Lawson, right? So, hey, don't miss that one. The we posted the other information for that already, so you can see that on our Facebook site. But tonight, I just wanted to share one testimony that I think will be encouraging. It's a very unique one that I haven't really had before. And it, of course, involves angels again. I believe they were angels. Uh, Let me tell you about it. So I hope this is encouraging to people. So, where to start? Okay, so we lead worship at a church. My wife and I do, and there was a Sunday where we showed up early to church. This was a few weeks ago now, at the uh, end of April, and I we'd gotten done practicing and doing sound check and all that stuff prior to the service, and we had set our stuff up, and then we were waiting for service to start. And so it was very early, and there were very few people in the sanctuary at that point because we had not yet started the service. So I was sitting simply on my phone at the time, kind of in the middle of the sanctuary, and the sanctuary is kind of a spread out U, I guess you could say, with different sections. And I happened to look up, and I saw a gentleman sitting in kind of an interesting spot, I thought, since the sanctuary was essentially empty. And he had sat in the very front row, the very furthest seat, all the way to the very edge of the room, the auditorium, the sanctuary. And I thought, huh, it's an interesting place to sit. You know, sometimes the youth will sit there and stuff like that. But this man was probably middle aged. He had a beard, um, brown hair with some gray in it, maybe, and just nondescript, kind of darker blue clothing and darker pants. And he was just sitting in the front row, and it looked like he was maybe reading a Bible or looking at something in his hand. I'm not sure. But I thought, huh, well, that's interesting. I don't know who that was. It was someone I didn't recognize. We've been going there quite a while. And so I thought, oh, it must be a visitor. And I thought nothing more of it. Then we got up on stage and we did the worship set. We started the worship songs, leading those, and in the middle of it was about the second song. Very clearly, I felt God say or give me an impression that there were angels present in the sanctuary during worship that morning. Not angel, but angels, plural. And immediately I saw a picture of this guy who, from the stage, he was off to my left where I couldn't see him, and it was dark over there. But I knew God was referring to this guy, and and immediately I just felt like a flood of emotion go through me. I don't know how to describe that, um, but just very. I thought I was going to start crying on stage. I probably did actually, but it was just so overwhelming, the feeling all of a sudden. And I didn't even look at him. I had my eyes closed at the time, but I knew I could there was a sense of something uh from that direction. Anyways, we finished the worship set, and it was just uh a very good worship time. Very good time of worship, where you feel the presence of God in that worship set. At least I felt that way, and it sounded like other people said the same thing. So afterwards, when we're done with the worship set, the worship team is supposed to grab their stands and their microphones or their equipment and kind of take it off and go behind the stage and put it in a room back there and then wait behind the stage um, for the announcements and stuff to get done before going and finding our seats so we don't interrupt people. So I went off the stage and I didn't even look at that guy because I was trying to kind of compose myself a little bit. But we went and put our stuff back, and I was standing behind the screen, and I was trying to kind of compose myself. And I happened to glance off to my right, and I saw that guy sitting there, and there was a guy that looked almost like him sitting right next to him also, and they were both looking at me. They were in those were probably the only seats where they could actually see behind the screen and see the worship team, uh, where we were waiting back there, and they were both watching us, and no emotion on their faces or anything like that, not making any gestures. They weren't glowing, uh, you know, I don't know how to describe it, like giving off a feel. It was just these two guys, and and I felt like they were together because they were sitting right by each other, last two seats, very front row, farthest over as you can get, and they looked somewhat similar. I don't actually. I'm trying to think back what the second guy looked like exactly, and I just know he was there, but I can't like picture his face. It's kind of interesting. Anyways, I thought, okay, I have to go introduce myself to these people, like I'm gonna go say hi to these guys and like introduce myself, welcome them to the church, etc. I want to get some information and I want to let them know kind of what God told me in the middle of worship. So we went out and I had to put away my earphones and our battery pack and a microphone at the back of the sanctuary. So I went and did that first and I turned around to go and greet them because there was a time where you could greet people and stuff like that, and both of them were gone. And I thought, huh, well, I guess I'll go talk to someone else then. So I did. And the time of greeting people ended. And I went and sat down after I talked to someone else instead. And I kept looking over there, expecting them to come sit down. And 10 minutes passed, nothing. The sermon started, still weren't back. I actually got up and walked out of the sanctuary to the bathroom. I looked for them out in the entryway, the area there. There's kind of a coffee room. They were in the bathroom. I actually thought, well, maybe they're speaking, with the youth or something. So I actually walked past the youth room to see if they were like a special guest or something that had come to speak with the youth. And nope, no, they weren't in there either. And I thought, this is really interesting. Uh, so I very clearly noticed him, had that moment on stage. Afterwards, they were obviously in a spot where they could see the worship team behind the screen. When I went to find them, they were gone. They weren't anywhere else in the church. I didn't see them get up and leave. And I asked other people too, like, did you see these guys? And no one had seen them. Like I asked probably five or six people and they're like, no. But one guy who was sitting with us said, it was interesting. I actually turned to Siri, our daughter who was sitting with us, and he'd said, uh, I get the impression someone keeps looking at us from over there. And I thought that was interesting too. And I'm like, huh, how interesting. All these little tidbits and pieces, kind of fitting together as kind of confirmation of that word that I got while on stage. And since then, I've looked for them in other meetings there at the church, and I have not found them. They have not returned. No one knows who they were or when they left or where they came from. But it brings to mind the uh, the verse from Hebrews. If you can get me my phone, so we have Tara run me my phone, and I'm sure that people actually know this one. You've heard this one many times, but it's very pertinent here. This is obviously the one that came to mind. Was Hebrews 13:2. So do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. We're very aware that angels can take on human form, and they did so in the Bible all the time. So this should not be surprising to us as Christians. It was shocking to me that it happened right in church like that. Um, and I've talked to God a little bit about this because I don't want to say I was freaked out by it a little bit, but I was like, what just happened here, And so it was a really interesting thing that happened, and I don't know what the purpose was other than God just, letting us know that, hey, he cares about us. Just like any encounter with angels, it's either God giving a message, or just being God or showing he's sovereign, or there are lots of reasons God can send an angel, but ultimately they always point to God, and that's the important thing here is God is with us. His presence was literally in the sanctuary that morning for worship. And that's my takeaway from this. It's not that I worship those angels, you know, um, I just feel honored, I guess, that God would send angels to visit us. I didn't feel malice or anything from them. It was just they were there, you know, and that was kind of the feeling. So very interesting. You know, obviously, pray about this. Read your Bible. You don't have, you can take this with a grain of salt. This was obviously my testimony about what I experienced recently, and I hope it's encouraging for people at home too. Um, that God is there and God cares and God has angels uh, at his beck and call, and they're there for our benefit. So remember that you're not alone, and God knows exactly where you're at and what you're going through right now, and He has His angels in motion all the time in all time, space, and dimensions. So be encouraged. Um, and then make sure that you tune in on the 28th. That is going to be our first guest of the season with Stephen, like I mentioned. He is a guitar player extraordinaire, worshiper, an artist, a phenomenal artist. He also uh, creates his own music, and he has an awesome testimony about overcoming some very difficult things, including some addiction issues. And it's really about redemption, and how his journey is different from everyone else's. And it's really awesome to hear. So it will certainly be an encouragement, no matter what you struggled with, that God can get you out of that struggle, no matter what it is. Anything is possible with God. So remember that. Don't miss Stephen on the Power Source on the 28th. Also, we mentioned this previously, we have Citadel as our first worship group of the year. Stephen will be doing some music, by the way, when he's here. He'll be doing a couple songs. Our first actual worship night, though, that I would call it, is going to be June 5th at 5 o'clock. So tune in. We'll be live streaming. You're also welcome to show up live here if you'd like. Absolutely. Yeah, please come. It's a lot of fun to worship together, obviously. But if you can't make it, we'll be live streaming it too, and then it'll be posted afterwards too. So Citadel, we've had them in the past. You could probably go back and look at old videos. They've been here 2 or 3 times, I think, and they have different band members each time. And this time they're going to have a couple of guests. Special guests, yeah. And I could actually get their names right. Get their names right in the phone. I want to make sure that I get the names right here too. So it's going to be Robert Sellers and Trayshawn Kraft is going to be with Citadel this time as their special guests. So make sure that you tune in for that too. It is going to be an awesome time, and that's kicking off this season of worship here too. So two very important dates, May 28th and June 5th, kicking off the next season here at Upper Room. Hope you're as excited as I am. Look forward to seeing you then. Have an awesome time in between now and then, and be blessed.